You notice an empty glass on your desk. You should take it to the kitchen. It would take less than a minute, but you tell yourself you will do it later. Then you see a message you forgot to answer. The reply would take 30 seconds. You swipe the notification away. There is also a bill waiting to be paid, an appointment you need to book, and a document you promised to send. None of these tasks are difficult. Yet somehow they remain unfinished for days. And every time you notice one, your brain quietly reminds you, you are falling behind. This is one of the most common forms of procrastination. We usually imagine procrastination as avoiding something enormous. Writing a book, starting a business, preparing for an important exam. But sometimes procrastination is not one terrifying task. It is 20 tiny tasks following you everywhere. A message waiting for a reply, a plate waiting to be washed, a form waiting for your name, a phone call you have delayed for 2 weeks. Individually, each task is almost weightless. Together, they create mental noise. Imagine Daniel starting Monday with a simple list. Reply to Emma. Send the updated file. Book a dentist appointment. Cancel a subscription he no longer uses. Nothing on the list looks intimidating. So Daniel assumes he can handle it later. He begins working on something more important. But while he is working, he remembers Emma's message. At lunch, he remembers the dentist. That evening, he notices another payment from the subscription he forgot to cancel. Daniel has spent almost no time completing these tasks, but he has spent the entire day remembering them. That is the hidden cost of small, unfinished tasks. A task may require 30 seconds. Avoiding it can force your mind to reopen it again and again. Each unfinished task becomes a tiny open loop, and an open loop does not need to be important to steal attention. It only needs to remain unresolved. This is why a day can feel mentally crowded, even when you have not done very much. Part of your mind is constantly trying not to forget everything else. The usual response is to create a better list. So you write every task down. You organize them. You assign priorities. You move several of them to tomorrow. Then tomorrow arrives, and the list still feels heavy. A list can stop you from forgetting a task. But sometimes organizing a 30-second action takes longer than doing it. This is where the 2-minute rule becomes useful. The basic rule is simple. If something can be completed in roughly 2 minutes, do it now. Do not schedule it. Do not create a reminder. Do not move it to tomorrow. Finish it before your brain begins negotiating. Reply to the simple message. Put the cup in the sink. Add the appointment to your calendar. Send the document. Throw away the empty package. The goal is not to become someone who immediately reacts to every demand. The goal is to stop turning tiny actions into recurring mental obligations, because procrastination often begins with negotiation. You see the task. Your brain asks whether you feel like doing it. You imagine doing it later. You decide the current moment is slightly inconvenient. And somehow, a 40-second task becomes a 3-day conversation with yourself. The 2-minute rule removes that conversation. It replaces a mood-based decision with a simple question. Can this be finished in 2 minutes? If yes, close the loop. That phrase matters, close the loop. Because the reward is not only completing the task, it is removing one object from your mental workspace. Imagine trying to work at a desk covered with small pieces of paper. None of them is particularly large, but each one occupies space. Every finished task removes one piece of paper. Your life does not transform instantly, but your attention has one less thing to collide with. There is, however, an important limit to this rule. Not everything that can be done quickly should interrupt you immediately. If you stop focused work every time an email arrives, the rule will damage your attention instead of protecting it. The 2-minute rule is not permission for other people to control your day. It works best during natural transition moments. When you are processing your inbox, clearing your desk, preparing for tomorrow, moving between tasks, or noticing a small personal task that genuinely needs to be handled. If you are halfway through meaningful work, capture the task and return to it later. Do not sacrifice an important hour to save an unimportant minute. The purpose of the rule is to reduce friction, not create constant interruption. But there is a second version of the 2-minute rule. And this version is useful when the task cannot possibly be finished in 2 minutes. Suppose you need to exercise. You cannot become fit in 2 minutes. You need to write a report. You cannot finish it in 2 minutes. You need to clean your home, study for an exam, or organize your finances. These are not 2-minute tasks. So instead of asking, "Can I finish this in 2 minutes?" ask, "What is the 2-minute beginning?" For exercise, the 2-minute beginning might be putting on your shoes and stepping outside. For writing, it might be opening the document and writing one bad sentence. For studying, it might be placing the book on your desk and reading one paragraph. For cleaning, it might be throwing away 5 pieces of rubbish. For the difficult email, it might be writing only the first line. You are not pretending the entire task takes 2 minutes. You are reducing the entrance. This matters because beginning and continuing are different problems. Before you begin, the task exists mostly inside your imagination. Your mind can exaggerate it. It can make the workout feel exhausting before you move. It can make the blank document feel impossible before you type. It can turn a simple phone call into 10 imaginary problems. But after you begin, you are no longer responding to an imagined task. You are responding to the real one, and the real task is often smaller than the version you were carrying in your head. Daniel experiences this with the dentist appointment. He has delayed it for nearly a month. The phone call will probably take 5 minutes. But in his mind, the task has become strangely large. He needs to find the number. Check his calendar. Choose a day. Explain what he needs. Maybe wait on hold. So he keeps avoiding it. Then he tries the 2-minute beginning. He does not promise to complete the appointment. He only searches for the clinic's number and saves it on his phone. That action takes less than a minute. Now the task has changed. The next morning, he does not need to figure out the entire dentist situation. He only needs to press one button. That is what a good first step does. It does not finish the journey. It makes the next action obvious. And obvious actions create less resistance than vague intentions. Deal with my finances is vague. Open my banking app and write down the current balance is clear. Get back in shape is vague. Put on my walking shoes after lunch is clear. Work on my project is vague. Open the project file and write the next 3 actions is clear. Many people think they are avoiding effort. Often, they are avoiding ambiguity. The task has no visible entrance. The 2-minute rule gives it one. But do not turn the rule into an excuse to stay busy all day. There will always be another message to answer, another dish to wash, and another object to organize. Small tasks can become procrastination too. You can complete 20 tiny tasks while avoiding the one meaningful task that requires courage. So remember the difference. The first version of the rule closes small loops. The second version opens the door to important work. One clears mental clutter. The other creates momentum. Here is the full system. When a task appears, ask, Can I finish this in 2 minutes without interrupting something more important? If yes, finish it. If no, ask, what is the smallest 2-minute action that would make the next step easier? Then do that action. You do not need to feel motivated. You do not need to promise that you will finish everything. You only need to reduce the distance between noticing and acting, because every time you repeatedly notice a task and ignore it, you practice delay. And every time you take one clear action, you practice responsiveness. Over time, that changes how you see yourself. You become someone who handles small problems before they grow. Someone who can begin before the mood arrives. Someone who does not turn every action into a debate. The goal is not to become perfectly productive. You will still delay things. Some tasks will still feel difficult after you begin. The 2-minute rule does not remove effort from life. It removes unnecessary resistance from the entrance. So the next time you notice the empty glass, the unanswered message, or the document waiting to be sent, pause before saying, later. Ask whether later will actually make the task easier. If the answer is no, close the loop. And when the task is too large to finish, find the 2-minute beginning. Open the document, put on the shoes. Save the number. Write the first line. You do not need to finish your whole life today. But you can stop making tomorrow carry what today could have handled in 2 minutes.